According to the text of this manuscript, he then spoke as follows. I fully concur in all the evidence and arguments set forth here by our brother in Christ, the philosopher Gurdjieff. I, for my part, will even add to all he has said, that to cut short other lives merely to stuff one's own belly is an infamy of infamies, such as only man is capable of. Had I not also been interested in this question for many years, and had I not reached certain entirely different conclusions, then after all that our brother in Christ Gurdjieff has said here, I should not hesitate a moment, but should urge and conjure you all not to delay until tomorrow, but without looking behind to hasten back to your towns, and there in the public squares to cry aloud, Stop, stop, people, consume no more meat for food. This practice of yours is not only contrary to all the commandments of God, but is the cause of all your diseases. As you see, I do not do this now. And I do not do so only because, during my long years of unremitting study of this question, I have, as I've already told you, arrived at an entirely different, definite conclusion. Concerning the definite conclusion at which I have arrived, I can now tell you only this, that it will never happen on the earth that all people will profess one and the same religion. Hence, in addition to our Christian religion, other religions will always exist, and it is not possible to be certain that the followers of these other religions will also abstain from consuming meat. But if we cannot now be certain that at some time or other all people on earth will abstain from meat, then we must now, as regards the consumption of meat, take quite other more practicable measures. Because if one part of mankind consumes meat, and the other part does not, then according to the results of my experimental investigations, the greatest of evils, than which nothing could be worse, would befall the people who did not consume meat. Namely, as my detailed experiments have shown me, among people who do not consume meat, but who nevertheless live among those who do, the formation ceases of what is called willpower. My experiments prove to me that although when they abstain from meat, people's bodily health improves, nevertheless, when such abstainers find themselves mixing with those who consume meat, their psychic state inevitably grows worse, in spite of the fact that the state of their organism may at the same time sometimes improve. Thus, a good result for people who abstain from meat can be obtained exclusively only if they live always in complete isolation. As regards the people who constantly consume meat or those products which contain the element called eknoch, although the appearance of the state of their organism undergoes no change, nevertheless their psyche, especially its chief feature, which is sometimes designated by the general word the character of man, gradually changes in regard to positiveness and morality for the worse, beyond all recognition. I must tell you that I made all these deductions from the experiments I was enabled to conduct over a period of many years, thanks to two good philanthropic men, namely to the rich shepherd Allah Linach and his money, and to the scientist we all respect, El Kunanaza, with his remarkable invention, the apparatus Aristodesoch. By means of this said remarkable apparatus Aristodesoch, I was enabled for several years to register daily the general state of the organism of all those thousands of people who lived under test conditions at the expense of the Good Shepherd, Allah Lanach. May our Creator multiply his flocks. Well then, when thanks to these experimental researches of mine, I became clearly convinced that if people continue to consume meat for their food, it will be very bad for them, and that, on the other hand, if only some of them should abstain, no good would come of this either. I therefore devoted myself entirely for a time to finding out what could nevertheless be done for the future welfare of the majority of the people. At the outset, I then established for myself two categorical propositions. The first, that people accustomed for so many centuries to consuming meat for their food would never, with their weak wills, be able to make themselves cease consuming it in order to overcome this criminal tendency of theirs. And the second, that even if people should decide not to eat meat and should in fact keep their decision for a certain time and should even lose the habit of eating meat, they would nevertheless never be able to abstain from eating it for a sufficient length of time to acquire a total aversion to it. They would not be able to do so because never on the earth will it occur that all people will have the same religion or form a single government, without which condition there can never exist common to all any suggestive, prohibitive, penal, or any other kind of compulsory influence, owing to which alone people possessing in general the property of being stimulated by example, aroused by envy, and influenced magnetically might be enabled to keep forever a resolution once taken. Notwithstanding these two facts, incontestably clear in my conviction, I nevertheless, with these facts as the basis of my subsequent researches, persevered in my search for some possible way of escape from the unhappy situation confronting people. Of course, all my further investigations on a large scale proceeded again with the aid of the inexhaustible wealth of the herdsman Allah Lanach and the wonderful apparatus of the wise El Kunanaza. The results of these last researches of mine made it clear to me that although in general people's psyche does indeed deteriorate from the constant introduction into the organism of the substance echnoch, yet this substance has a particularly harmful effect only at certain times of the year. So, my brethren in Christ, from all I've said, and chiefly from the experimental observations which I made on people daily during a whole year, and which clearly showed me that the intensity of the harmful effect of the substance echnoch decreases at certain times of the year, I can now confidently express my personal opinion that if the custom would be spread and confirmed among the followers of the teachings of Jesus Christ, of abstaining during at least certain times of the year from the use of these products in the formations of which that substance echnoch takes a special part, then if such a measure could conceivably be put into effect, it would bring the people a certain amount of benefit. As my numerous alchemic investigations have shown me, the substance echnoch participates in the formation of the organisms of all lives, without exception, breeding on the surface of the earth, as well as within its different spheres, as for instance within the earth, in the water, in the atmosphere, and so on. This substance is present also in everything which exists for the formation of the said organism, as, for example, in the vascular fluid of every pregnant female of